The execution bell rang. The air was heavy in the center of Zareth City. A thick silence hung over the square where hundreds of aliens had gathered. Above them, a giant silver bell waited to be struck. That bell only rang for one reason, public. Execution. Every citizen knew what it meant. Someone was going to die today. At the center of the square stood a tall platform. Guards surrounded it with sharp electric spears. On that platform knelt an alien woman with long dark hair and purple skin. Her name was Soraya. Chains wrapped around her wrists and ankles. Her head was down, her clothes torn, and her body bruised. She looked weak, but her eyes held a strange strength. She was not just any prisoner. She was once a high-ranking scientist, a respected leader. But now she was called a traitor. The council had accused her of helping humans during the last war. She had hidden human children in her lab, given them food, and helped them escape. To the ruling class, this was the worst kind of betrayal. Helping humans was the same as attacking your own kind. That's why Soraya had been sentenced to death in front of everyone. The crowd whispered. Some looked curious. Others looked angry. But most were just afraid. No one dared to speak against the council. The law was cruel but strict. And today, it demanded Soraya's life. An old judge stepped onto the platform. His voice echoed through the square. Soraya of House Rahl, you are guilty of treason. Do you have any last words before you die? Soraya lifted her head slowly. Her voice was calm but cold. You fear the truth more than any enemy. The judge frowned. He raised his hand. A guard stepped forward, holding a blaster. The bell was about to ring, but then something happened no one expected. A loud sound came. From above, everyone looked up. A shadow flew across the square. A figure jumped down from the top of a building and landed on the platform. Dust flew in all directions. The crowd gasped. The guards shouted. The judge stumbled back in shock. It was a human. Real human, standing on the execution platform right in the middle of Zareth City. He wore a dark coat and gloves. His face was rough and tired. A scar ran down one side of his cheek. But his eyes were full of fire. The guards raised their weapons, ready to shoot. But the man didn't move. He slowly reached into his sleeve and pulled something out, a small badge. It glowed blue. The guards froze. The judge stared at the badge with fear. It was marked with an ancient symbol. Few remembered it, but those who did feared it. It was the seal of the Silent Path, a forgotten rebel group thought to be destroyed years ago. The man stepped forward and spoke clearly. She's not dying today. The crowd was too stunned to speak. Even Soraya looked confused. She had never seen this man before. Why would a human risk his life for her? The judge shouted again, "This is madness. Kill him now." But the guards hesitated. The badge held power. If this man really was from the Silent Path, he could not be ignored. Stories of the group still haunted the memories of old war leaders. They were known for turning whole battles with just a few agents. They were known for burning empires from the inside. The man turned to Soraya. He kneeled beside her and whispered something only she could hear. Her eyes widened. She looked at him as if she finally understood something important. She nodded. The guards finally moved. They grabbed both of them and dragged them off the stage. The bell never rang. As they were pulled through the crowd, Soraya saw something she hadn't seen in a long time: hope in the eyes of the people. Some looked shocked, some confused, but some smiled. Something had changed. In a city where no one ever dared to resist, someone just did, and not just anyone. A human. Whispers spread through the streets like wind through dry leaves. Who was the man? Why did he stop the execution? What had he said to Soraya? And most importantly, was the Silent Path truly alive? Back on the platform, the judge stood frozen. He looked up at the bell, still silent. His voice was low and angry. Find out who he is, and kill him. But deep down, the judge knew it was already too late. The first spark had been lit. The fire was coming. And in the middle of it all stood a woman who was supposed to die today, but now might become the voice of a rebellion. Asterisk, who is he? Everyone in Zareth City was talking. The crowd from the square had gone back to their homes, but their minds couldn't rest. A human had jumped in front of death. He had stopped an execution that was supposed to be a warning to others. People whispered about him in markets, in quiet rooms, and dark alleyways. Who is he? They asked. Why did he help her? The guards had taken both the human and Saraya to the underground holding cells. These cells were deep below the city, built to break spirits and erase memories. Cold metal walls, thick doors, and no sunlight. Prisoners went in. Few ever came back out. Saraya sat in the corner, her hands still tied. Her face was dirty, but her eyes remained sharp. She watched the man sitting across from her. He leaned back against the wall, calm like nothing had happened. His coat was torn and his lip was bleeding, but he didn't seem to care. Why? She finally asked. Her voice was soft but full of tension. You don't know me. Why did you risk everything for me? The man looked at her, then smiled lightly. You're wrong. I do know you. Maybe not your face, but your work, your voice. I've read your research, the one they tried to burn. Saraya was silent. Her mind raced. That research had been destroyed long ago. It was about peaceful coexistence, about humans and aliens, learning to survive together after the war. The council had called it poison. They had erased her name from history. And yet this human remembered. I'm Jace, he said. I used to be part of the Alliance Recon unit during the last war. I saw too much. I saw what your people did to mine. And I saw what mine did to yours. I left after that. I started looking for people like you, people who didn't follow hate. Saraya stared at him. She believed him, not because of his words, but because of his eyes. They had seen pain, guilt, and truth. The silence in the cell was broken by heavy footsteps. A guard opened the door and threw something at Jace's feet. It was his badge, the one with the silent path symbol. We know what this is, the guard sneered, but that group is dead. And you will be too. The door slammed shut again. Saraya picked up the badge. Her fingers traced the symbol. She looked at Jace. The silent path. They were wiped out 10 years ago. Not all of us, Jace replied. We went deep underground. We watched, waited. Now we're moving again, but we need help. And we need you. Saraya shook her head. I'm not who I used to be. I'm weak now. No, Jace said firmly. They fear you because they know your mind is stronger than any weapon. Just then, a light blinked on the ceiling. A red alarm. A new voice came over the speaker. Cell 9, move prisoner for execution. Second attempt. No delay. They were coming for her again. Jace stood quickly. We don't have time. I plan to rescue, but it's early. I didn't expect them to act so fast. Saraya stood too, though. Her legs were still weak. You plan to rescue? Jace gave a small grin. You think I jumped in without a plan? He reached into his boot and pulled out a small tool. It looked like a broken key. In seconds, he used it to unlock the door from the inside. Alarms began to scream louder, but Jace remained calm. He pulled Saraya close. We go down, not up. Follow me and don't stop. They ran through the hallway as guards shouted and lights flashed. Jace took sharp turns through tunnels that seemed abandoned. He knew this place too well. He had been here before, not as a prisoner, but as a spy. They reached an old metal door with strange symbols. Jace tapped a rhythm on it with his knuckles. The door opened slowly. Behind it was a small room filled with old tech dust and hidden weapons. A man stood inside with mechanical arms and glowing eyes. He nodded once at Jace, then at Soraya. "She's the one?" the man asked. Jace nodded. "She is." Soraya looked around, confused but curious. "Who are you people?" "We're what they forgot," the man with the glowing eyes said. "And now it's time they remember." Jace stepped forward. "They wanted to kill you to silence your mind. But I won't let that happen. You have something they fear, truth. And now we fight with that." Soraya looked down at her hands, then back at the two men. She had been ready to die today. But instead, she was now standing at the edge of something far bigger, not a prisoner, not a traitor, a symbol. A beginning, and deep in the shadows of Zareth, the fire that had been sleeping finally started to wake. The underground truth, the silence inside the hidden room felt strange after the chaos above. Soraya stood between two men she had never seen before today, one a human who had saved her life in front of an entire city, the other a quiet cyborg with machine parts and burning red eyes. Dust covered the walls. Old wires hung from the ceiling. It smelled like oil, rust, and forgotten history. Soraya walked slowly through the room. She noticed things others might ignore: blueprints, old maps, weapons that had been banned years ago. This place wasn't just a hideout. It was a war room. And it had been waiting for the right moment to rise again. Jace was watching her. "You still remember how to read those codes?" he asked, nodding to a screen filled with blinking data. "I designed half of this tech," Soraya replied quietly. "But I never thought I'd see it again." The cyborg moved toward the wall and pressed a switch. A screen lit up. A map of Zareth City appeared, then spread across the galaxy. Red zones marked government outposts. Blue marks blinked hidden rebel groups. There were more than Soraya expected. "We're not as few as you think," said the cyborg. "The more the council lies, the more people join us." Soraya stared at the screen. Her heart beat faster. "But why me? I've been locked away." "My name is Poison now." Jace stepped beside her. "That's exactly why we need you. They tried to erase you. They failed. You're proof that the truth can survive even in chains." Soraya hesitated, then finally asked the question that had been burning in her mind. "What truth do you think I have?" Jace reached into his coat and pulled out a small cube. He handed it to her carefully. "This came from your old lab. Hidden deep. We found it 2 months ago." Soraya held the cube gently, as if it were glass. Her fingers glowed faintly as she activated it. A blue light rose. Images began to spin: files, videos, names, numbers. She saw her own voice in the recordings, speaking calmly, explaining her research. Then came something else: footage. Secret. Footage from the war. It showed alien officials ordering attacks on peaceful colonies. It showed fake messages sent to frame humans for crimes they didn't commit. It showed lies that led to mass killings. Soraya's hands trembled. "I never saw this," she whispered. "These are war crimes." "And you're the one who can prove it," Jay said. "This cube only opens with your code. You were their scientist, their thinker, their star. Now you'll be their downfall." The cyborg crossed his arms. "We've been trying to leak these files, but no one listens. We're ghosts to them. But you? You were once the face of progress. If you return, speaking truth, even some of the loyalists might listen." Soraya stared at the files again. For so long, she believed her work was destroyed, her name erased. But it wasn't. It had just been hidden, waiting for the right time. And now that time had come. "I don't know if I'm strong enough," she said softly. "You don't need to be strong alone," Jace replied. "We'll stand with you, but we need your voice." There was a long pause. Then she nodded. The room suddenly felt warmer. The decision had been made, but the moment didn't last. A loud blast shook the ground. The lights flickered. Dust rained. From the ceiling, a voice came through a speaker. Robotic, sharp, and cold. You can run, but you cannot hide. This ends now. Kira had found them. Jace moved fast. He grabbed Soraya's arm and pulled her toward a hidden tunnel in the back. The cyborg picked up a strange gun that hummed with energy. She's faster than us. The cyborg warned. We won't outrun her. We have to outsmart her. Soraya turned to Jace as they ran through the tunnel. What is she? Jace didn't look back. She's not just a hunter. She's a living weapon, designed to track minds, not just bodies. She knows your thoughts before you do. The walls of the tunnel lit up red. Another explosion roared behind them. Soraya clutched the cube tightly. If Kyra got her hands on it, the truth would die forever. They reached a fork in the tunnel. The cyborg split off to lay traps. Jace and Soraya kept going deeper. As they reached a hidden hatch, Soraya looked back. The old life was behind her, now her home, her position, her fear. Ahead was only danger, but also hope. And in that moment, as they climbed out into the cold night, Soraya knew she was no longer just a survivor. She was the key to a war far from over. Escape through fire. The city above burned with silence, but below, chaos hunted them. Jace and Soraya ran through underground alleys few remembered even existed. These weren't roads, these were scars in the bones of Zareth, built long ago before the First War, before the Council turned the world into a prison. Every footstep echoed with urgency. Behind them, a machine tracked their breath. Jace's face was tight with focus. He remembered every turn, every hatch, every pipe. He had memorized these tunnels years ago during missions he wasn't proud of. But now, that knowledge was their only chance. Soraya moved beside him, clutching the memory cube to her chest. Her eyes scanned the walls, always thinking. She wasn't the same woman who knelt on the execution platform. Her fear had burned away. Now, all she had left was the truth and a target on her back. Suddenly, the air changed. Jay stopped. He crouched and pressed his hand against the ground. She's close, he whispered. A faint hum passed through the walls. Not footsteps. Vibrations. Too smooth, too cold. It wasn't a person. It was her. Kyra. The hybrid hunter wasn't made of flesh alone. She was built with stolen tech and living rage. She could move faster than light and think faster than machines. And now she was hunting them through metal veins. Jace pulled out a small disc and threw it behind them. It clicked 3 times and flashed green. What is that? Soraya asked. Delay trap, he said. Won't stop her. Might confuse her. They kept moving. The tunnel ended in a rusted hatch. Jace opened it with a code tapped on the wall. Behind the hatch was a storage room filled with dust and sealed crates. He slammed the door shut and locked it, but they both knew it wouldn't stop her for long. Help me, Jace said. He pushed aside crates, searching for something. Soraya joined him. They uncovered an old supply drone. Its battery was weak, but still held a faint charge. We ride this? She asked. We fly it, Jace said. Just enough to reach the rooftop. There's a transport vessel waiting, but it won't wait forever. They powered the drone. It groaned like a dying animal, but it rose slowly. Jace climbed on first, pulled Soraya up after him, and steered it toward the airshaft. Then came the sound they feared. Metal sliced. Open behind them. Kira had arrived. She stood in the broken doorway, tall and inhuman. Her eyes glowed with a cruel light. Her body shimmered with armor that shifted like liquid. Her voice was soft and sharp. You cannot run from justice. Soraya met her gaze. This isn't justice. This is fear. Kyra stepped forward. Jace threw another flash trap. It exploded in a storm of sparks. The drone lifted quickly, rising through the narrow shaft. Kira leapt too fast. She grabbed the base of the drone with her clawed hand. Sparks flew. The drone shook violently. Soraya reached into her coat and pulled out a small object, a memory shard. Sharp, glowing, unstable. "Let go," she warned Kira. Kira didn't speak. Her eyes locked onto the cube in Soraya's other hand. "This truth isn't yours," she said. Soraya tossed the shard down. The explosion threw Kyra back into the tunnel. The drone jolted upward, barely hanging on. They burst through a grate and landed on a rooftop. The sky was dark, full of smoke and stars. On the far end of the rooftop, a small transport craft blinked its landing lights. An old friend of Jace's waved from the cockpit. They ran. The rooftop cracked behind them. Kira had followed. Jace turned and fired. The shots hit, but she didn't stop. She raised her arm and launched a blade of plasma dot. It flew toward ZRA.JACE. Shoved her out of the way. The blade cut into his side. He fell. Soraya screamed and grabbed him, pulling him toward the ship. Kyra moved to follow, but the pilot fired a cannon blast at her. It hit, and for the first time, Kira fell. Soraya dragged Jace into the ship. Blood stained his coat, but he was conscious. "You're bleeding," she said. He smiled weakly. "You noticed." The ship rose into the air. Kyra stood on the rooftop, watching them vanish into the clouds. Inside, Soraya held the cube close and stared at Jace. "You saved me again," she said. "I didn't save you," he replied. "You're saving all of us." As the stars swallowed them, Soraya realized something. Escape wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of war. Asterisk the hunter arrives. The sky looked calm, but Soraya knew better. Clouds couldn't hide what was coming. She sat in the corner of the small ship, her eyes on the cube in her hands. That cube didn't just carry files, it carried fire. It held the truth the Council had buried deep, and now that truth was on the move. But so was something else. Kira. She wasn't just hunting them. She was built for this. Every breath Soraya took, every heartbeat, every flicker of doubt, Kira could sense it. She wasn't made from parts of war machines or stitched together by old tech. She was born from fear, a creation of the Council to erase threats before they could speak. Faster than drones, deadlier than assassins. And she never gave up. The transport ship flew through the night, weaving between clouds, heading for a hidden base in the wastelands. But something felt wrong. Jace sat across from Soraya, his side still bandaged, his eyes alert despite the pain. "She's coming," he said. Soraya nodded. She didn't need proof. She felt it too. The silence wasn't safe. It was the kind. Before a storm. Suddenly, alarms screamed. The ship rocked hard. The pilot shouted from the front, "Unidentified object on our tail moving faster than our scanners can track." Jace pushed himself up. "Take us down. We can't outrun her." In the air, the ship dove sharply toward the desert, engines straining. Through a side window, Soraya saw it, a flash of silver, cutting through the clouds like lightning. No wings, no jet, just Kira. She wasn't flying, she was chasing. Her body transformed. Mid-air, arms becoming blades, eyes locked on them. The ship hit the sand hard. Dust exploded around them. They rolled, coughed, and scrambled out. "Keep the cube safe," Jace told Soraya. He handed her a shock pistol. "If she gets close, don't hesitate." Soraya stared at the weapon. "I'm not a fighter. You are now." They ran toward a canyon filled with broken metal and old war scrapyard. Pieces of dead ships and ruined mechs created a maze. Jace had chosen this place on purpose. Kyra's speed wouldn't help. Her here. They moved carefully through the wreckage. Each step was a risk. One wrong move and the metal would give them away. Then the sound came sharp and unnatural. A hum that made the bones ache. Kira had landed. Her footsteps didn't echo. Her voice didn't carry. But Soraya could feel her nearby. Her presence was like cold smoke, curling through the air. Jace pointed toward a narrow gap between two massive engines. They squeezed through, breathing. Heavy, trying not to panic. But Kira was already waiting. She stepped from the shadows, blocking their path. Her skin was smooth metal, her face beautiful and lifeless. Her eyes were red lights that never blinked. "You carry a weapon made of words," she said to Soraya. "But words cannot stop me." Soraya raised the pistol, hand shaking. Kira tilted her head. "Do you think you can change the galaxy with a story?" "No," Soraya answered, "but I can start one." She fired. The blast hit Kira in the chest. She didn't fall, but she stepped back. Jace grabbed Soraya's hand and pulled her through the gap. They ran deeper into the maze. Behind them, Kira gave chase, moving faster than sound. Jace turned a corner and pulled Soraya into an old escape pod half buried in sand. He pressed a button on a hidden panel. Lights inside flickered to life. "This was our trap," he said. "She thinks she's hunting us. But now we hunt her." He handed Soraya a device. "Push this when I say." She nodded. Kira stepped into view, calm and certain. "I tire of this," she said. "Give me the cube and I will make your end painless." Jay stepped out. "Then, take it." Kira lunged forward, but the moment her foot hit the pod entrance, Soraya pressed the button. A surge of energy trapped Kira in a stasis field. She froze mid-motion, suspended like a statue of fire and death. Jace dropped to his knees, breathless. "We have maybe 30 seconds before she breaks out." Soraya opened a panel and plugged the cube into the pod's ancient transmitter. "I'm sending the data," she said, "to every free network, every hidden rebel post, every truth seeker who still listens." Jace smiled through the pain. "Then we've already won." Outside, the sand blew wild, and the stars above blinked brighter. Inside, the cube finished its upload. Kira's eyes flickered. The hunt wasn't over, but now the hunted had struck back. Asterisk. The memory code. The message had been sent. Across hidden satellites, abandoned listening posts, and broken rebel channels, Soraya's voice echoed in every tongue the galaxy knew. It wasn't a speech, it was evidence. Cold, hard, undeniable. The war crimes, the faked attacks, the council secrets. No more whispers. The truth had finally escaped its cage, but Soraya didn't feel victorious. Not yet. The cube had done its job. But the hunters still lived. Kira stood in the shattered remains of the escape pod, sparks flying from her armor. Her stasis trap had slowed her down, but not broken her. Now her glowing eyes searched for vengeance. Soraya and Jace had taken shelter in a forgotten rebel outpost built into the cliffs beyond the canyon. The place was barely holding together, walls cracked, power systems flickering, but it was a place to breathe. For now, Jace lay on a rusted table, bleeding, pale. His wound was worse than she had feared. He had said nothing, only gritted his teeth and told her to finish what they started. But Soraya wasn't a doctor. She wasn't a soldier. She was a builder of ideas, a crafter of systems. And right now, she had to use her mind like a blade. In the corner of the room, she found what she needed, a relic from her past life, a memory reader. Old tech, illegal in most sectors, but perfect for what she had in mind. She placed the cube in the core slot, then linked it to her neural band. If she could dive deeper into the data, find the original memory paths, she might unlock something the Council didn't know she recorded. Something stronger than files, something that could crash their entire system from the inside. "Jace," she whispered, brushing his arm. "Stay awake for me." His eyes opened, weak but steady. "I'm not going anywhere." She sat down closed. Her eyes and connected. The machine hummed. Then the world disappeared. Inside her mind, everything was brighter and louder. Memories she had buried came rushing back. Her childhood, the day the council offered her power, the first time she saw a human cry, the first time she questioned what side she was really on. Then came the data. It wasn't just files, it was living code. Networks of lies, loops of fear, entire city systems tied to one truth: obedience. But deep inside it, like a heartbeat hiding under thunder, was something else. A failsafe, she remembered now. During her final days in the lab, before they arrested her, she had created a backdoor in the planetary mainframe. A virus that didn't destroy, but revealed. It would force every screen, every voice assistant, every public board to show the truth at once. Not as data, but as memories. Everyone would feel the truth, just for seconds. But it would be enough. She had hidden it deep behind 10 layers of code, buried in her own thoughts. Now she brought it out. Outside, the sky turned darker. A storm was moving in. Inside, Jace coughed. Blood stained his lips. Saraya disconnected, blinking fast. Her head hurt, her hands shook. But she had the virus. "I have it," she said. "It's inside me now." Jace forced a smile. "You always did carry too much." Then the door shook. She turned. Kira was here. The hunter stepped through the stone, like a shadow through smoke. Her armor burned with red cracks from the earlier blast. Her voice was sharp, almost angry. "I gave you many chances," she said. "You should have run." "I did," Saraya replied, "but now I stand." Kira raised her arm. A blade formed. "Then die with your message." But Saraya didn't move. She reached into her jacket and pressed a pulse switch. A wave of energy burst from her wristband, sending the virus live. Kira paused. Her systems flickered. Her blade vanished. Her eyes twitched, just once, then a scream, mechanical, broken, not hers. She staggered back, gripping her head. The virus had reached her, because she too had been built from council tech. And now, even. She could feel it. The memories poured through her circuits, the pain, the children, the betrayals. Not in numbers, but in sensation. For the first time, Kira saw herself not as a hunter, but as a weapon used by monsters. She fell to her knees. Saraya stepped forward, breathing hard. "Now you know." Kira didn't answer. Outside, far across the city and deep space, screens lit up with visions. Every citizen saw the same thing. Every soldier, every servant, every councilman. The truth touched their minds like a storm they couldn't escape. And deep in the broken outpost, Saraya stood not as a victim, not even as a rebel. She stood as the one who made them remember. Asterisk, she was supposed to die. They once called her a traitor. They paraded her through the streets, bruised and broken, ready to erase her name from history. Saraya was meant to die in silence, alone, her voice buried beneath the cheers of a loyal crowd. But now, her voice had become impossible to silence. It echoed across cities, systems, and even the dark corners of the council's palaces. The virus had worked. The truth had spread like wildfire. Screens in every corner of the galaxy had flashed alive. Not with propaganda, but with memories. Real ones. The cries of children. The orders to burn whole colonies. The secret recordings of the council turning peace into profit. And most powerful of all, the voice of Saraya herself, calm and clear, telling a story no one could unsee or unhear. People didn't just watch. They felt. Riots didn't break out. Something more dangerous did, awakening. Whispers turned into questions. Loyalists paused. Guards laid down weapons. Whole ships refused. Orders, The council tried to shut it all down, but they were too late, and in the middle of it all, Saria stood beside the man who had saved her more than once, Jace, wounded but still alive. The rebel base was no longer hiding. It had become a lighthouse. More. People arrived by the hour, former officers, engineers, citizens, even aliens who had never trusted humans before. They came with broken ships and angry hearts, not for war, but for justice. Saria walked out to face them. Some had never seen her before. Others had only known the name spoken in fear. But now they stood before the very woman the council feared most, the one who had shown them everything. She didn't raise a flag. She didn't call for revenge. She simply said, "Now you know." That was enough. Behind her, Jace leaned against the wall, smiling faintly. "You've started something you can't stop." Saria looked back at him. "It was never mine alone. It was always ours." In the heart of the city, the council chambers locked themselves down. Their leaders argued behind closed doors, unsure what to do. They had built a kingdom of silence and lies, and in one night, a woman they tried to kill had made the whole galaxy listen, and the hunter? Kira? She sat in the desert now, far from command. She was alive, but changed. The virus hadn't broken her, it had freed her. She remembered now. The pain, the programming, the stolen thoughts, and the choice they never gave her. For the first time in her existence, she was quiet not by code, but by reflection. Then she stood and began to walk toward the light. Back at the base, Saria stood on a hill at sunrise. She looked at the horizon, no longer running, no longer afraid. They tried to end her story with a bell and a bullet, but now she was louder than any of them. She was supposed to die. Instead, she lit the match that burned. The lies to ash. And the galaxy? It had just opened its eyes.